New Zealand Warriors 2024 NRL campaign underway, but not in the way we'd like. Going down to the Sharks at Go Media Stadium. Let's take a look at how that unfolded. Hey team, welcome back into the Warriorholic. A little bit down on energy today, as you can imagine, but man, I had an awesome trip up to Auckland there, celebrating round one. Great to see the Cup boys get up over the Jets there. A little bit of a close one there, but it's great that they got it done at the last minute. Awesome to catch up with so many cool people. A lot of my followers from various different platforms. Thanks so much to the team at 1NZ for having me at home base there with the Maribyrnong boys. But pretty sad day for the boys. I'm sure they would have loved to have got that done. After the first 20 minutes, I think a lot of people were thinking we were going to be up by about 40 points by the end of the game, but wasn't to be. So first and foremost, I want to give my congratulations to the Sharks. They played some outstanding footy. We beat them in every stat across the park, but they got the job done on the back of their defense. They were so resilient. They figured out our shape plays. They shut us down to perfection. Nico Hines, just his ability to jam at the right moments, his ability on attack to actually create space, putting 5-on-3 overlaps here to create their tries. Their 4-pack manning up in the middle there, containing our big boys. As much as people would like to bag the Warriors, I think we've got to congratulate the Sharks first and foremost, and I hope their fans enjoyed that, getting one back on us after the last couple of wins we've had over them. From a Warriors perspective, look, I'm pretty disappointed, but we weren't far off. As you'll see as I go through these individual statistics, most of our guys stepped up and played pretty bloody well, but we were probably 15, 20% off, maybe 25% off in our attack. We weren't quite clinical. We're a little bit clunky. And the Sharks defended that. And in the NRL, that's what it comes down to. If you're even slightly off your game and the other team's on, you lose. They were a top 8 team last year, the year before. I don't know if we showed them enough respect coming into the game off the back of last year. Hey, they just put us back in our place, and I think in some ways this takes a little bit of the pressure and the expectation off. But I think we're not as bad as we seem. However, I'm a little bit concerned about the injuries. Wade Egan especially. I don't know whether it's a hyperextended elbow, what it actually was there, but it's obviously an elbow he's injured before. I don't know if he comes back this week. That'd be a huge loss up against the Storms. Kurt Capewell, reportedly rib cartilage. That takes a while to heal. It's not really something that will go away if you keep on trying to play through it. So he may be out for a couple of weeks there. I'm not exactly sure what the injury is, but Metcalf, I believe, is injured as well. So, it's a bit of a worry. CNK, I had a quick chat to him on Friday night, and he said he's probably still a couple of weeks away. That's my biggest concern to come out of this. That and probably the fact that the Sharks were able to read and shut down our shape so easily. Part of that is probably going to come down to the fact we're a little bit clunky. First receiver passes going to the second receiver or to our halves. We're often a little bit just to the side of them rather than out in front of them. A couple of passes hit the ground. And things like that, when you're up against a team who are on in defense, it's just not going to happen. So, I'm not getting all depressed. I'm not calling for people to be chopped, but I'm going to give some, relatively constructive feedback on each of these guys. This is just based on my opinion. And I'm just going to remind you guys the way I give these scores is not like for like. This is kind of based on what I think they delivered, based on my expectation of their potential, right? So, say, for example, I give Sean 6.5 and I gave Tane Tuaupiki a 7. It doesn't mean he played better than Sean. It just means that he delivered a bit better on what I expect of a guy of his experience. So, again, just opinion. So just before I get onto the individual stats, I'll run through a couple. I'm not going to put these up, but I'll just run through the team stats to give you guys an idea how we actually went and everything other than the score. 54% possession we had, 80% completion versus 76 for them. All runs we had 234 versus 186 for them. What do we have there? Run meters, we ran for 1968, they ran for 1467. Post contact, we had more than them. We had 5 line breaks, they had 4. Tackle breaks, we had 34, they had 19. Average set distance 44.7 versus 38.6. Kick meters, kick return meters, 282 for us, 147 for them. Play of the ball speed, 3.05 for us, 3.24 for them. Offloads, 9 for us, 5 for them. Kicking meters, we kicked for 582, they kicked for 639, which shows they were kicking from deep in their half a lot. The kick diffusal was a bit of an issue for us with 60% versus 94 for them. Tackle efficiency, 92 for us versus 88.65 for them. Missed tackles, 19 for us, 34 for them. Errors, 9 for us, 11 for them. 8 penalties conceded each, 1 ruck infringement and 1 on report for them. Statistically, we should have won that game, but well done to the Sharks. With less ball, with less completion, they just managed to shut us down at the right times. So, shit happens at times, but anyway, let's take a look at the individuals over the course of the game here. So first up at fullback, we've got Tane Tuapiki, so 72 minutes there with that head knock thanks to a Rocco Berry knee to the temple. 203 metres, 35 post-contact metres, 6 tackle breaks, 6 tackles at 100%. I saw people like starting to lose their minds saying, you know, we've got to get rid of him, put Roger at fullback. Those are quality numbers for any fullback. 203 metres, anything over 200 metres. You know, he was very safe under the high ball. We saw Roger put 2 balls down at high ball. So I don't think it's the answer to move RTS straight to fullback. I think, we do need him to get used to playing centre if that's where we're going to go from long term. Again, as I said, it's round 1. This experience is vital for a guy like Tane if we do end up needing him in the back half of the season. So unlike a lot of people, I was pretty happy with the way he went. So well done, fella. 7 out of 10 for me. Still think there's a little bit of room of improvement there, particularly with the hands and distribution weren't quite as slick as they were in the trials. It's something you work on, you know. It was a lot, they were under a lot of pressure, a lot of rushing D there, but, you know, I'm sure he'll improve, so don't be too hard on him. Next up on the right wing, Dallin. He played 80 minutes. What did he get there? 151 running meters, 42 post contact, 1 line break, 6 tackle breaks, 8 tackles at 80%, which was pretty good for him. 4 errors, but a couple of those are probably on Rocco, just trying to push things a little bit there to try and get that final try to get ahead of them or equal with them in the back quarter of the game there. So 2 handling errors, but the 2 penalties were costly as well. So while he did pretty well in his fundamentals with his running meters, he was very energetic. He was unlucky not to get that try where he's taken in the air. The penalties, are a bit of a letdown for me. And I think, he would admit himself it wasn't his greatest game ever. Still sort of a little bit rusty in patches there, but 6.5 for him. I think we can expect a lot more from him next week as he gets a bit more gas in the tank. Then on to Rocco Berry, another player that I saw people talking about that he's mud and he needs to be dropped. People don't watch the game. They just get so emotive and focus on, I don't know what. So 125 metres run is probably the most, I'm pretty sure it's the most he's ever run in first grade, which is, right up there with what you'd expect from, any centre. 42 post-contact metres, which shows that he's getting a lot more aggressive, better body position than last year. 2 tackle breaks, 1 line break assist, 24 tackles. 24 tackles at 89%. He does some serious work. He had the couple of missed tackles he had. He was actually the guy who turned around and got the guy himself. So, we saw him chop a couple of those guys down really well. It's just a bit of a shame when he chopped Talakai's legs out from under him. The momentum in that last try, he rolled over back onto his feet and was able to get up to get that offload there to score the try that pushed them ahead. Shit happens. But overall, I thought Rocco played very, very well. Not ideal, potentially he could have kept hold of that first pass that he pushed to Dallin with sort of the tap on, but that comes off. Dallin could have been away. The last one was like literally the last 20 seconds of the game, so what are you going to do? Overall, I'm happy with him. He's continuing to progress. He's a big boy. He's starting to fill out, so be patient with him, people. He's got a lot of upside to him. 7 out of 10 for me for Rocco there. RTS was interesting. Watching him live, I felt like he was just struggling to get into the game. He played 80 minutes, 173 metres run, 67 post-contact metres, 5 tackle breaks, but then we see just 9 tackles at 90% versus Rocco's. What was he, 24, 25? So that's where you see Rocco's big impact is on defense there. 2 errors, 1 handling area. Now this is one thing that I saw someone make a comment, said in jest, that Montoya probably had a quiet night. I was expecting him to get a lot more quality ball, but 22 receipts and only 4 passes. So that means he took the ball himself the predominant amount of time. He beat Jesse Raymond a number of times. Watching live, I didn't actually see how many. I think it was like he had 6 missed tackles that RTS left him in the air, but he was covered really well. He didn't get any line breaks there because he'd beat Raymond, but either someone from inside or outside would get him. He did offload a couple of times, but yeah. I'm not rushing to put him at fullback. I think there's more upside having him in the centres there, but we've just got to get him to link up a little bit better, I think, with Montoya on the wing there. I'm not 100% sure what it was that was just kind of getting him going by himself, getting caught with the ball so often, but that will continue to improve. So 6.5 for RTS, great numbers from some aspects, but yeah, probably need to link a little bit more. And those handling errors under the ball were a little bit of a trouble. And a couple of drop balls. Luckily, he caught one of them again. So a bit more from you next week, RTS. High expectations, my man. I'm hoping you're going to be Dalium Centre of the Year. Marcelo Montoya, he played 80 minutes as well, just 105 metres. He definitely runs hard, man. He runs hard, and he bumped off a couple of people really nicely. But I just don't think it was his best night. He was, 100% in tackle efficiency was pretty good. But we did get stripped out on his edge. 27 post-contact meters, 1 tackle break. As I said, 3 tackles for 100% and 1 penalty conceded. I gave him a 6.5 because I just thought he could have been a little bit more involved. 105 meters is not a lot for him. But the runs he took, he was full of energy and kind of did get us on the front foot there. Slightly below par for me from Montoya, even though not overly bad. Metcalf, 80 minutes for him, 1 try. And what a try it was very SJS, stepping off both feet there, pretty much clean air through about 4 tackles. 72 run meters, just 1 post-contact meter, which is pretty random. 3 tackle breaks, 1 line break, 20 tackles at 83%. I felt he got really physical in defense. They targeted him a lot. Now, this is one of the things when I was looking a second time at the game, seeing where they were getting their momentum from in the forwards versus ours is they were targeting our edges. They weren't running straight up the middle, so our props weren't making as many tackles, and they ran a lot at Jackson Ford and Luke Metcalf. Yeah, a number of times there, Metcalf was like one-on-one. He made the tackles, but it meant that they were able to get up and play the ball really quickly and got good momentum on, whereas we were pretty much more direct, and their props, particularly Kaufusi and Hunt, were very solid in defense, and their hooker at stopping Adam Tohu and Mitch Barnett. So just an interesting tactic I saw from them running at him, but he definitely stood up. His defense was really solid. Just the 2 kicks for 50 metres there. I gave him 7.5. I still think there's a little bit of room to improve there, but a solid effort. Another side note there, nothing official yet, but various media outlets are suggesting he's been extended for 2 years at $500,000 a year, which I think is a reasonable price for him. Still yet to fully prove himself, but I think the development we saw from him over this off-season shows he's still got a lot of upside. I didn't really think initially that he was necessarily suited to halfback, but I think we've seen some good progressions in his game and his distribution that long term he could be a good option once SJ retires. So good to see that they have locked him in if it is true. Sean Johnson, look, he played 80 minutes, 2 conversions, ran 113 metres, which was good. Just a 6 post contact, 1 tackle break, 19 tackles at 76%. He did a lot of work there as well. 500 metres kicking from 21 kicks. Now, look, he had a solid game, but I think he was just a little bit rusty. Some of his passes going to ground, as I said, and that we'll get on to Jackson in a minute, but a couple of the ones to him were just a little bit low. just a little bit, to maybe a little bit hard. Webby said in the post-match we're playing a little bit too close to the line. I think that's one thing. You can criticize Jackson, but when you're catching the ball literally less than half a second before three guys hit you, it's bloody hard to get that ball and pull it into your stomach in time to stop people hitting the corner of the ball with their elbow, with their shoulder, which he got a couple of times. So I'm not really making excuses like I am, but I think those two need to sort that combination out a little bit more and just get it. Maybe Jackson hitting the ball at a better angle, so coming in across this way, so he can hit the ball and pull it in and cover it with his left arm, whereas he was tending to catch it in his right hand. So, and very front on, which left that ball exposed to get knocked out, or like he was dropping it. So, a little bit of work there to do for SJ. I thought was pretty disappointing to see him put in those kicks on the fourth tackle in their red zone a couple of times. Granted, he got a lot of six agains, but it just showed our shape wasn't quite working when we were constantly having to revert to grubbers. So, um, still a little bit to come from SJ. I think I'm not going to be one of these people who think he's not going to put on the same level of quality as last year. I still think he'll step up, but slightly down on his very best. So I've given him a 6.5 out of 10, particularly since we lost. Adam Fanua-Blake, 56 minutes is slightly down on what he would normally play last year, and I wonder if there were a couple of factors here, like a lot of people complaining about the rotation of our bench, and I think the fact that Kurt Capewell got injured obviously was not something that's planned. You've got an 80-minute player coming off once and then coming back on, so you've got two interchanges there, messes up the rotation. But 56 minutes is not as much as I'd normally expect from him. Don't know if it's a plan to slightly drop his minutes down to keep that energy up throughout the whole season. But I heard it mentioned from people sitting behind the bench here that he was absolutely nutting off the fact he got taken off, and nutting off that they weren't putting him back on. So it's good to see he's really keen to be out there and putting in the big minutes. One try, and a solid try it was, 220 metres run. 61 post-contact metres is slightly down on what you'd expect from him from 220 metres. 2 line breaks, 6 tackle breaks, 23 tackles at 100%. That's outstanding. So why did I give him a 7.5? I think he played generally really well. However, their last try that we were stripped for numbers on the left there, if you actually go back and watch that in slow motion, Adam was stuck behind play in their back line, and he just sort of stood there and wandered forward. Marcelo Montoya was late to get back behind the play of the ball. That meant we had 11 guys defending against 13. Nico Hines spotted that immediately. We shifted across and ended up with a 5-on-3, and they ended up scoring, even though we almost covered it up. But just that little, I know he wants to be out there, but got to get back in that line a little bit quicker when we're in our red zone. That was off the back of, I think it was Katoa had made a break. And a couple of his plays of ball, like he was about 3.85 seconds, which is pretty slow for him, that he just didn't seem to have that same quick play of the ball that we've seen from the likes of Mitch Barnett, which is something that it's always a question for me. Is he makes those great post contact meters, but often they're quite slow, so they give the opposition a chance to set, unless he's going to throw an offload every now and then, which will keep them honest. So look, had we won, I probably would have given him an 8.5 or a 9. So, just little things like that. If you're really looking hard, most people wouldn't have noticed that he was actually part of us conceding that final try there that gave Cronulla the lead. But I did notice that back on the replay. Wade Egan, just a 34 minutes for him. Not sure why we took him off so early the first stage. I'm not sure if he was injured, whether that was planned. Maybe to give Lussick a few minutes before halftime and after time. That way you give Egan 2 long stints. 22 running meters for 8 post contact, 1 line break assist, 1 try assist, 18 tackles at 100% efficiency, but 2 very costly penalties conceded. This is something else I mentioned on Facebook. People going after Jackson for dropping 3 balls in contact, which is it's a slight little error. But for me, giving away back-to-back ruck penalties in their 22, so they could kick out and piggyback out. They were really frustrating for me, hence I've only given him the 7, and also he didn't play huge minutes here. But shit, the time he was on there, I think we scored 12 points. When he was off, they scored 16, so we scored none. You definitely see his ability to take those first few steps, engage the defense, and give particularly our middles, the ball potentially just half a metre short of the game line. Whereas you'll see, I mentioned a moment, Freddie Lussick is passing it back 2 metres behind the game line. So just getting that momentum, he's so good at that, keeping their defence on us. So I really hope that elbow's not a long-term injury. It didn't look good, because shit, we need him out there. Get well soon, brother. Mitch Barnett, he only had the 51 minutes, and again, I think that's probably impacted by the whole injury rotation that wasn't planned for. 174 metres is about par for the course for him, and 54 post contact out of that is pretty solid. Just the one tackle break though, 25 tackles at 90% efficiency. The thing I noticed watching him live, being at ground level there at home base, it was a really interesting place to watch it. He is definitely one of those guys who tries to turn the momentum with aggressive line speed. He was often the first person to hit, get up under the ribs, lift the guy, and allow the other guys to come in behind him and push them back right onto their try line. So I think he's definitely a mood maker in that respect. I thought we missed Jazz's intensity out there, helping him with that as well. One thing I'm going to say is, like, after they scored that try to go ahead, the Sharks, people's heads dropped, and they were literally right in front of us there on the try line. We were down in the south end there at the home base, and no one was speaking. And Mitch Barnett was the guy who pulled everyone in. He was the one speaking, driving in the message, and Tohu was just basically nodding. And it's something I've always sort of thought. I love Tohu. I love the way he started to learn to speak to the refs as a captain, but I feel like in those moments you really do need someone with a passionate, clear message to light a fire. And I thought that was really good to see the leadership from Mitch Barnett to be doing that, to try and turn things around. And to our credit, we gave it everything in those last 20 minutes to try and get back in the game. It wasn't through lack of effort, but it was just a bit of lack of execution there. So all ups to him. I really enjoyed his leadership and his role. Again, had we won, I probably would have given him an 8.5. But because we didn't, he's one of our leaders. He got a 7. Jackson Ford, this is going to be an interesting one for me. A lot of people very critical, focusing on the areas and they're not acceptable. But 80 minutes for 110 metres, which is up on, last year at this time of the year, he was running about 80, 40 post contact, 1 line break, 38 tackles at 95%, the 3 years in the one handling era. But when you watch him live, man, he takes some hard hits. He was doing so much work on defense, both on his side in the middle, scrambling across. They're not going to drop him. They're not going to drop him. They can't drop him, but if Kurt Capewell's out, I think they will work on it. It's great to see no penalties conceded from him, but he's got to cut those errors down. Very frustrating, but shit, the energy he brings and the effort, can't question it. I just hope Webby can find a way to get that ball to him in a slightly better position and get his body angle in a better position to be able to protect the ball quicker against those shoulders coming in, because if the shoulder hits the point of the ball just as you're catching it, you've got to be a bloody good player to hold that. So there's a lot of technique. We saw Mitch Barnett have the same issue against the Tigers in Hamilton last year, so they sorted it with him, so hopefully they'll sort it with Jackson. 6.5 out of 10, brother. I'd love to have given you more, but people would have eaten me alive. 90% effort, but 6.5 based on those few errors there. Kurt Capewell, for just a 69 minutes, he would have been planning to play 80. 50 run meters for 16 post contact, 33 tackles at 97%. I think he only missed 1 with that rib cartilage injury. Man, he's just such a workhorse. And it's interesting, like the Australians, like I said in my pre-game or in one of my posts recently, the stats don't reflect his impact on the game. The work he does, the way he gets around the field. And one of the things you find with these tackles, I'm honestly, no, I say this every year, I don't know how they count them, because he was involved in way more than 33 tackles, so he's often the second tackler in. He's going to be a huge loss. if he's out for a couple of weeks with those ribs, if it is cartilage. But it seems Jacob Laban, I was a little bit worried that he had a bit of an ankle twist or something, but seems he's pulled up okay. Every chance he might be getting his debut next week, because Marata Niakura with a broken foot, he's out for a couple more weeks. And if Kurt Capewell's out, who's coming back up? I'm not sure you bring Jazz in to cover an edge, so he may come back in anyway. But yeah, it could be Jacob Laban's time there. If it is, good luck, brother. What do we got here? Tohu, 80 minutes, 237 meters, 82 post contact, 37 tackles. I think he had one miss at 97%, one penalty conceded. Why did I only give him 7.5? We lost. He's the captain, and like I said, I just felt like he was a little bit quiet at times verbally. I know, like, he shows the way like anybody as far as leading from the front, but I just really like him to get a little bit more vocal at times, a little bit more passionate, fire the boys up. But maybe that's just a role they've empowered a guy like Mitch Barnett to do. But again, if you lose, I think we gave up 2 penalties that we didn't kick for goal. That would have taken us all square. Could have come down for a golden point. Would have, could have, should have. But you got to put those questions to a guy who captained in a team that was leading by 12-0 after about 12 minutes and had all the momentum, but we lost. So keep up the hard work, brother. Hopefully we get the solidity coming, similar to him and Dylan Walker. I'll get onto the moment. Just their link rolls are just slightly off their best, so shit happens. It's round 1. Then on to the bench. Freddie Lussick, yet another one who copped a lot of shit. Drop him, bring Chanel in there. Hey, it's very hard when you're following probably the best, if not the second or third best hooker in the ruck and the comp at the moment, with their ability to get forward momentum. But like I said, watching closely there, Egan takes 1 or 2 steps, engages the defense and puts a very flat pass onto his props in the perfect position, so they're hitting with all the momentum and they make the advantage line every time. Freddie Lussick passing 2 meters backwards. Granted, they get a little bit more speed, but that allows the defense to come up and hit them over the advantage line, stops us making that momentum. So that's something they'll really need to work on with him. If we look at his stats, though, 25 meters run, 13 post contact, but 30 tackles and some big tackles for 94% there. A penalty conceded, but that will be a bugbear for everyone. Got to get that momentum going, got to get that ball flatter, got to get that pass a little bit crisper, brother. I would be interested to see if Wade's out. I would say they bring in CHT to the bench into a 14 role, and that will mean that he gets some time at hooker, I'd say. As fit as Freddie Lussick is, I think it's something worth trying. A lot of people have been calling that for a very long time, so let's see. He had a really good game in Cup, so could be his time to get another chance. 6.5 for me for Freddie. Any more than that, people would have killed me on that one as well. Bunte Afoa, just the 16 minutes, 23 metres, 5 post contact, 13 tackles at 87%, 1 penalty conceded. He made more than 13 tackles, I can tell you that. I stood there and counted them. The tackles he was involved in, 3 sets in a row, he made 4 tackles just in those sets. So he's involved in a lot more tackles, but, mate, I defend him so much, but 23 meters in 16 minutes is just, it's not first grade material. I still think it's just the fact he can't get that step going. A lot of people question why Tom Ale didn't get a shot. I mean, there's obviously something Bunty delivers that Webby's more confident than Tom, but I just love that late step Tom has to offer. He always gets more meters. Ooh, I said it before, touched on it. Jazz had a very solid game, big meters there in Cup. I thought Tanner Stowers-Smith had a massive game as well. Some very good, strong running from him. He's definitely making more meters than that. So, does Bunty start again next week? I'm not 100% sure. I really felt like we needed that energy off the bench from a guy like Jazz to try and turn something when we were struggling through the middle there. Particularly like we're seeing when we lost an edge player there in Capewell, having to put Dylan Walker out there. It's not ideal. That said, Jazz doesn't play on an edge, but yeah, I really feel like we might need to bring a guy like Jacob Laban in there so you've got a little bit more variety. Who knows? But we definitely miss Marata as well, out for another couple of weeks. Broken feet don't heal fast. So Bunty, I'm sorry, just 5.5 for you, brother. Small minutes, limited impact. Finally, Dylan Walker. It was interesting watching him live. He doesn't seem to be having that same real high energy impact he had last year. But shit, the numbers show how much work he gets through. 57 minutes there, 159 meters. So third highest meters, fourth highest meters there, behind Tohu AFB and Mitch Barnett. 38 post contact, which is not huge for him. 3 tackle breaks, 27 tackles at 96%. Again, he's like slightly out of position there when he's having to cover on an edge. But yeah, solid effort from him. I think you couldn't have asked a lot more from him, other than perhaps being not quite at his crispest in distribution. Similar to Tohu, similar to SJ, just that little bit clunky, which probably cost us. But yeah, had we won, probably would have given him an 8. Reasonably solid effort from the big fella. So overall, what do we take away? First round, we were a little bit clunky, but statistically, we delivered across the park as individuals. People complain about the errors. We had less errors than them. We had 9 errors, single figures. Last year, so often we're up around the 14, so that's 5 less. They had 11. Penalties conceded, it felt like they were just getting so many piggyback penalties and ruck infringements, but they got 8 penalties, we got 8 penalties. They conceded 1 ruck infringement, we didn't concede any. On report, 1. I mean, that shot, I don't know. The refs didn't cost us the game, but they certainly didn't do us any favours. I look at that hit on Dallin. The result was different, but the intent and the impact was exactly the same as Zion, who got red carded and got 3 weeks. That was a direct shoulder to chin on report penalty. Very frustrating at times there. But overall, like I said, we played well. We got beaten by another top 8 team who I see played close to as good as they can, and they beat us by 4 points. I feel like we've got 30, 40, 50% improvement in that performance from us, just if we get rid of those few more errors and those silly penalties. Nothing to get too paranoid about. It will be very challenging going to Melbourne next week, particularly with those injuries, but who knows? Got to turn it around. Got to get that momentum going, boys. All the best for a solid week of training. I hope those scans come back. Luke Metcalf, I hope he's fine. Capewell, I don't know about. Egan, I just pray he's okay. Up the mighty Warriors, I'm still in. Thick and thin, let's go. 2024, still our year.